This is a short video on how to implement a simple end-to-end XML to COBOL integration scenario in IBM App Connect Enterprise Toolkit version 13. In this video, we're going to use the DFDL message models based on an existing XML schema and COBOL copybook. We're then going to implement a simple message flow that reads an XML message from an MQ input node and then maps that XML to a fixed length structure using the mapping node and then outputs the message in the MQ output node. We will then deploy the message and then run a test using the RFH util in this case. Let's get started. Now, in the IBM ACE version 13 toolkit, we're going to be doing two key tasks. The first one is we're going to be creating our message models that will be housed in a library. And the second thing we're going to be doing is to create the message flow by creating an application. So let's start with the first task, which is to create a library that will house the message models. To do that, we go to New, we go to Library. We're going to be naming this sample library. We click on Finish. And then now we put our message models. Start with the XML schema. We already have it saved on our local drive. Browse. Click on Finish. The next task is to do the same for the COBOL copybook. We click on New, Message Model, COBOL. Next. We click on Create a DFDL schema file. And then, like we did for the XML, we'll browse on our local drive. And then we're going to import the structure. We click on Sample Output, right arrow. Click on Next. So we're going to keep the default values as is. So we click on Finish. Now we have both the COBOL copybook and the XML schema, both of them in the library. Now we go on to create the message flow by creating a new application. So we'll go to New, Application. We're going to call this Sample Application. Next, we're going to be referencing the sample library we just created. We click on Finish. So now we're going to be creating our message flow. To do that, we click on the drop-down arrow, New, Message Flow. We're going to be calling this XML underscore 2 underscore COBOL. Okay. And then we click on Finish. Now the next task is to put our nodes. So we're going to be starting with the MQ input and output nodes. And our mapping node. We're going to connect all three nodes. In this case, I want to introduce some breakpoints because we're going to be using the debugger to test the message flow. Then now let's go to the next task, which is to put the properties for each of the nodes. We're starting with the MQ input node. The queue name created for this task is called the sample.xml.in. This queue name was created under the queue manager QMA. And our input message parsing is our XML NSC. Then we do the same for the MQ output node. So we all did the same similar task. We created a queue name named sample COBOL out. This queue is residing in queue manager QMA. Now, the next thing we want to do is to go to mapping. So for the mapping node, we double click, we keep all the default functions as is. Now we're going to click on the drop down arrow and look for our sample inputs. We're going to do the same on the right side, excuse me. Look for the sample output. We go to next. Our output domain is DWDL, finish. Now we're going to start mapping our elements. So we start with open up the plus sign on the left side and the plus sign on the right side. And we start mapping. And now we're going to deploy our application. So we deploy it, in this case to test server 2. and we launch the debugger. Now we're going to test the message flow using the RFH util application. So we'll go to RFH util. First thing we want to do is to write a message to the sample.xml.in in the MQ input node. To do that, we're going to open the file, double click on the file already created, and write that file to this queue. Once we do that, it will automatically launch the debugger. So we're going to watch our message parse. So our message on the sample input, we have our name, address, contact. Let's resume. Now we have our DFDL message on the sample output side with name, address, contact, and we can run to completion. Now let's go back to RFH util to see if we can read the message from the MQ output node. To do that, we change this queue name. Okay, now we want to read queue. And let's go by checking the data in the queue by going to the data tab. Our message is initially COBOl, double click on COBOl, and there we see the message parsed. And this is the message in the MQ output node. And there you have it, a short video on how to implement an end-to-end XML to COBOL integration scenario in IBM ACE version 13 toolkit. If you'd like to see similar content, kindly visit our website at www.transformatech.com, or you can send us an email at info@transformatech.com. Thank you for your time and see you on the next one. Bye.